Boys and girls, what is up? Welcome to episode number 17 of the Phyba Performance Podcast. We are stoked to have Big Sammy and Pearce on the podcast talking about a bit of bodybuilding, holistic health, what it's like being an IFBB pro, what he's going to be getting himself into next, some changes in that type of space. We're going to be talking about some really cool nutrients that we've been speaking out for the last few weeks as well. And then just getting another look at how we can maximize performance and what it looks like to increase performance from just a ground foundational level, just to get the most out of you, whether that's in the bodybuilding space, the entrepreneur space, running your own businesses, I'm not a dad, but I'm a dog dad, but we've got a couple of dads in here too, so how you also navigate that too. So, mate, welcome onto the podcast.
Thanks for the introduction. Making me sound really good, not just a meathead.
Yeah. Well, that's actually probably one of the things that we can kind of start off with. I know, so little funny story, just for an intro here. So, Sammy and Matt met a while ago. How long ago did you guys meet?
Oh, we've known each other in the industry for a long time, man.
Yeah, exactly.
We've been doing... We did a bit of work, kind of set me on my path with Crohn's and what to look out for 12, 18 months ago.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Oh, mate, time flies. I got no idea.
Feel that?
Yeah.
And then we met at the beach. So
I was coming out of the beach, my morning sunrise meditation, all that shit, and I flicked back my 7 strands of hair, Dude comes up and he's like, hey, man, you got a cool dog. I'm like, yeah, like a lot of people say. And he goes, you wear Speedos? I said, yeah, I'm a dad, I can get away with it.
Yeah.
No one looks at you funny if you're a dad and you wear Speedos. But, yeah, funny. Well, look, I'm about to go.
Oh, here we go. He's got him on now.
The boys.
Let's go, the boy. He's got him on too. It's a bonus.
So I go, because I go to Riggs, I do the cold water therapy every day and all that kind of stuff because I moved around the corner from there. So, yeah, I've been showing off my new set of Speedos now.
And
they fit well.
So it's not just being a dad bod god. Maybe there's different levels of dad. Bodybuilder dad bod might get the Speedos.
I get away with it, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was like so interesting. I was sitting there having a coffee of a morning down at Main Beach there, and I was trying to get some work done, and I got distracted by number one, I got distracted by the dog. Number 2, I got distracted by this enormous fellow, and I was just like, far out. He's wearing Speedos. He's jacked as fuck. I need to go say g'day. So I literally just walked onto the beach. Sunrise is only just like the sun had just peeped over the horizon, and I'm just like, oh, I just got to do it. Walked up, I was like, hey, my name's James. I wanted to say g'day. Like, holy shit, look at your physique. And it was Sam.
Yeah, there we go.
So small world, eh?
It's small world. And then we got talking a little bit about what Sam was doing at the beach, which was doing his morning sunrise, getting a dip in the ocean first thing in the morning. And I was like, wow, that's interesting, because I actually haven't met many bodybuilders that were focused on some of those ground foundational things that seem to be, I guess, by the general population as bit hippie, bit out there, bit kooky, but it's something that Matt and I love to think about and try and put into a daily practice as well, so we can get the most out of ourselves. Is that something that you've always been about, or is that something that's newly introduced?
Dude, I was in hospital for Crohn's emergency surgery, fucking September, October, something like that last year, and I had nowhere to go. Like, I've always been a healthy dude. I cheat on my diet and have a drink and all that kind of shit, but for the most part, for bodybuilders, as we know, they can be quite extremists. So when they're not getting ready for shows, they can be quite in the narcotic scene and partying and eating shit food. That never really kind of interested me. Like, bodybuilding, when I got into it, kind of kept me out of jail, kept me out of things. I was on the street doing bad things, and my friends were going that path, and I guess the discipline took me away from it all. You know what I mean? So when I got further into it and always considered myself living a healthy lifestyle, I still wasn't being as healthy as what I could with all my gut health and the stress levels. And stress levels was the big one. So when I was kind of put in hospital and I came out of it, I had nowhere else to go because I've almost lost everything. And I'm like, fuck, I gotta do something different here. I thought my career was over. I thought my level of training was over because I was developing fistulas and all this kind of shit. So I'm like, man, I'm fucked. I gotta work on my health. Fuck bodybuilding. Fuck all that. Yeah. But there, when I made that turn and went down the real holistic side of things, which I was always aware of and always wanted to get into, it was just probably an ego thing. I'm not doing that fucking hippie shit, fuck that, dropped my ego and did it. Reached out to a close mate of mine, who's kind of like my life coach. And got it all started and just started in small steps. And then what happened, funny enough, stress levels went down, training started getting better, started looking better, started looking, oh, wow, you're looking so much healthier. You know, you're lean, you're getting jacked again, you're fucking training better, your business is going better, the right people are just walking in your life and come down on the fucking beach and positive. But it's what happens, it's what you manifest. It's the same type of people like yourself are starting to walk into my life. And you realise not the people that you, when I say are negative, are shit people. It's just the
Not your people.
It's a frequency.
Yeah, you know what it is. Well, frequency is what you frequently see. You know what I mean? So it's like when you look at it and you look at the people, I had to cut them off. I just kind of started veering away, and other people start walking in your life that are positive and benefiting your vision to what you want to do.
That's cool.
Did you training, when you said like stress and things like that, and you started incorporating like the sunrise and all those sort of things, but did you change your training as well? Like, did you train with the same level of angst and aggression or intensity, or did you back that up as well?
I couldn't anyway for the first 2 months because, dude, I got a fistula cut out between my ball sack and my arsehole. Let's go straight into it, right? So it was a fucking tail hanging out like that. And I thought, like, because I've had hemorrhoids before training hard, I thought it was just something like that. So, me, like, trying to, as a male, we don't want to go get the doctors because we're too hardcore and fuck that. So, I go to the hospital and they, lie me on my back because I'm in so much pain, lift everything up. And he's like, dude, you got to go on emergency surgery right now. This looks like a fistula. I'm like, oh, what's that? And so when they cut that out, they had to leave like an open wound because it's such a sensitive area. It can develop back again and cause a cyst and all that kind of stuff. So I couldn't train, I was forced not to train, I had to just kind of sit there with all my own thoughts, my own demons, and really backtrack and do some therapy work and fight my way out of it. And you realize when you can't train, which is a distraction, you can't work, you're surrounded by your own thoughts, and you realize you don't like the person that you are.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't like that. Like a lot of people, how many people can actually look at themselves in the mirror and say, I love who I am, or I love how I look, And that wasn't me, being a good bodybuilder in this country, and I've always done really well and, won every amateur show I did and whatever, but I still deep down didn't like myself. And I had to forgive myself for a lot of things. I had to do a lot of self-work. I had to do a lot of journeys, and face the music. And when I did that and I put myself first, that's actually the direction where my coaching's going now.
That's cool.
And I've fallen in love with my job again. People calling me and I'm like, fuck off, what are you fucking, now it's like I'm seeing people and I'm doing all this extra work because I get more fulfillment out of it. It's not just like a diet and a training plan, which it's funny because I've always kind of had that aspect about it where people say, oh, you should get into this. I'm like, I'm not going to call myself a life coach. It's pretty gay. Like, and even though I don't consider myself that, I'm just using that holistic approach in with my coaching now. The things that I've learned for myself, and it's taking off really, really well with clients, even competing clients as well. I do a couple of things with them. And it's making significant changes. So I'm getting some fulfillment. I'm happy about it. I'm happy I'm going to bed every night knowing that I make a change and making every day better than yesterday. You know?
And for others as well. Like even knowing now that you could have pushed that same path that you went down previously that allowed you to be not so healthy and not so happy. And you could have got the people their results.
Well, that's the thing, dude. Like you think that eating chicken and broccoli and rice, it's a healthy alternative, but it's not like, not to say chicken and rice and broccoli is not healthy, but for what I was doing, I wasn't in touch with what is considered healthy. You know what I mean for the body. You know what I mean, and
you've been consistent.
I was just consistent, discipline. You know what I mean, like eating the food that, and as
and anything outside of that would have been a weakness or a
correct
or a quitting. So you committed.
And then because you're a hardcore dude and I'm a serious dude and I train hard, that's where I talk down to myself too. So although I use that aggression in the gym, I started using that aggression for myself. I leave my wallet at home. You're a fucking dumbass. What'd you fucking do that for? Like talking about myself like that, you know what I mean? Like when really I was just trying to hype myself up to say, okay, go home and get it, which I would. But you still don't, I wouldn't talk to you guys like that if you left your fucking wallet at home. Do you know what I mean?
You class yourself as a bully.
Yeah, so I was, like
talking to anyone else like that.
Nothing was ever good enough. You know what I mean? And now I'm really grateful for a lot of things. And now, as I said, I've got staff members now working for me that I'm team building and, I can do this kind of shit now. I can be away from the gym where I was at the gym 4 or 5 a.m. every single day, getting home 8, 9 o'clock every night, doing the hours. And it's like, as soon as I change my kind of vision, my thought, and my process of how I look after myself first, the gym's making more money than it ever did. My business is making more money than it ever did. I get more fulfillment that with staff members, for example, putting them on the full-time wages where I can pay them better than what they were previous jobs.
Yeah.
And I get more out of that shit. Like the money side of things, that stuff always comes, but I think you need to find fulfillment. My fulfillment, as cheesy as it sounds, is helping people live a better life, whether it be coaching or if I'm helping them get a better job working for me or whatever.
This would change the way you do everything because, I mean, with that discipline, where the problem, one of the major challenges with discipline and commitment is that we actually have intuition. Our body's telling us little things like you need a break from these foods, or intuitively you're thinking, you know, health-wise, I need to change. This is not serving me well. But when you're disciplined and committed, you're like, no, I'm going to commit to this.
Stop being a bitch.
That intuition is not intuition, that's weakness. Well, that's this, and you override your intuition. You stop using your brain, you forget about listening to your gut and your heart.
Matty, that's why I said last week to myself, like I was training really hard. I've been training really hard, really well this whole time. I'm actually training harder now than any pro show I've done.
Yeah.
I'm dieting harder than any pro show I've ever done. But it's all happening very effortlessly. Yeah, I'm not trying hard at all. But then same thing last week, got to the start of last week and shoulder was hurting, hamstring was tight. And I've always torn muscles training hard, you know, as you do as an athlete. And you think, oh, if I just had a week off, I probably would have been right. Where now it's like, I do that. I took
as
the
a coach, do you do that now?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, so your clients will come in
it's do as I say, not as I do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and I would say to people, no, you're not fucking training. But then for me, I'm like, oh no, I better train.
Yeah.
So you know,
always the way.
where now that's what I did last week. I just took the full week off and didn't feel guilty about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just, and then I've come back this week, you know, better than ever.
And have you seen these really hardcore changes that have allowed you to, you know, be a better business owner, be a better bodybuilder? Have you seen them not only change the way that you mentally and emotionally react to things outside, but also seen that come through in your physique itself? Has it changed the way that, you know, how you're prepping now? You're prepping, say, more effortlessly and you're also getting better results physically and mentally at the same time. You find what have you found about your physique that is probably the biggest thing? You're just like, wow, that is different. That wasn't like that before. What was
posture?
What symmetry is it? What do you normally look for? What do you think?
Well, it's like, you know, training isn't my priority anymore.
Same.
You know? It's not my priority, but this is the best I've ever trained.
Yeah.
This is the strongest I've ever been.
Is it when you're happier training?
It's like when I have my daily non-negotiables, which you and I speak about, right? So my meditation, my breath work, my cold water therapy. My routine's changed a little bit, obviously, because I've just moved house, so I can't do the nice sunrise at the beach anymore. But I'm still getting used to my new routine, which I'm getting together. But yeah, I still do all the same things. I just have to train first, and then I do my morning routine work after that. But yeah, like morning, evening routine, journal work, all that kind of stuff. That shit comes first.
That's cool.
Yeah, wow.
Like if I and then after that, then I work my core, my stretching, my cardiovascular work, or just going for a walk with the dog, stuff like that. That'd be my second priority as far as physical work goes, and then training.
Interesting.
Because that shit sets me all up for my training.
Yeah.
So I have the right mindset to train. So no one gets in my way. I'm not thinking about this shit like I got to do that fucking plan, or, you know, my daughter might be sick and doing my head in or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I don't have any kind of distraction there. So when I train, I'm fresh. I go straight into it. You know, that's why part of my new routine now, instead of doing that in the mornings, I've been training 4 a.m. every day, getting that in first, and then I start my cardio. I'll go find somewhere, and then I'll meditate, do my breath work like you see me doing. And then keeping track to my journal. So those are the things that I really prioritize before everything, because I personally believe that what I've learned the most is that if you don't show yourself true self-love and respect, right? If you don't have a standard for yourself on what to give, whatever that may be is what you reflect on other people.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So if you've got kids, misses, whatever the fuck it is, if I was talking to myself how I used to talk to myself, if that's my own self-love, well, how do you think I'm going to talk to other people or treat other people or treat clients, you know, like...
Or perceive how they talk to you as well.
Exactly, dude. You know, like, it's like, there was little things towards the end there, man, like where I've always been, no matter how stressed I am, I always melt for my daughter. Everyone sees that and knows that. But kids are the most intuitive creatures on the earth, so they can see through your bullshit. So even though I've never gotten angry at her or, you know, discipline her, but I never snap at her or anything like that. Although I've always kept it cool like that, they can see through it.
Oh yeah.
Dad, what's wrong?
Yeah.
They're like,
How do you
oh,
know?
no, I'm good. She goes, oh, you upset, Dad? My dad, no, Dad's always happy. Fuck, what the fuck's she seeing? You know, that started stressing me out.
Yeah.
Or, I'd go to kindy, and there was a couple of times, I'd say over the time of this over a 3-week period, there was, I think, 2 or 3 times where I turned up and she was just kind of like, oh, hey, and she kind of like kept playing. Usually she runs straight in my arms. My parents are like, oh, no, kids do that. I'm like, no. She's always so fucking happy to see me. What the fuck is going on? They pick up on your energy.
Yeah.
You know? And now, as I said, like people always say, no, but you're a good dad. You take her out to Wet and Wild and, Tambourine Mountain, Byron. I take it, I do heaps of shit with her every weekend. But just because you're there doesn't mean you're present.
Yeah, that's it.
I've been there before.
And the anxiety factor of living in the future or the depression of living in the past, where I just find that when I'm journaling, I'm doing all this stuff for myself, and I'm grateful for every day that I'm alive, and I'm sitting there, I'm walking around, I just say to myself while I'm driving, I'm like, fuck yeah, life's good.
You feel grounded.
Yeah,
it
dude.
takes you back to grounded.
Do you do that? Like, is that something you just naturally do? Or is it something you've taught yourself to do? Like, just every once in a while, just go, fuck yeah, life's great.
I've always talked to myself,
Yeah.
but what I've learned is how to G myself up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, fuck yeah, you're doing well, man. Like,
Yeah.
I'm proud of you, like, and
Talk to yourself like you might talk to someone else.
Yeah, well, I was talking to myself like a heart of it. Like, I used to, because a lot of clients come to me because I'm an asshole, right? I'm straight up. I'm not going to lie to you. If you look like shit, I'm going to fucking tell you.
Yeah.
But I was using that to myself, but because it was on myself, I was being more hardcore on myself when really it was just more hate towards myself.
Yeah.
Whereas a coach, I was always with clients and I'd say, look, if something happened or whatever and something was legit, I'd say, look, it's all right, I'll show them compassion. But with me, no compassion.
Do you know what's crazy about that whole thing with that whole self-love and that? It actually, in the science perspective, it even has a change on our hormone profile. Like the actual self-love thing and increases oxytocin activity. And oxytocin's the most anabolic of the hormones. So we always talked about androgens being the ones that are going to build the muscle. But oxytocin actually is the most potent at building the new fascia infrastructure.
Wow.
So you can actually build more muscle. Even trenbolone, for example, they looked about it being one of the most androgenic anabolic steroids. Actually has 50 times the amount of oxytocin activity as it does androgen activity.
No way, really?
And I think that's it. So that whole self-love and very, very important to offset some of the negative aspects of androgens, but the oxytocin is the most anabolic.
So what you're saying is if you love yourself more and you give out more love, you're going to be more jacked.
Pretty much, yeah.
Cool.
Well, dude, it's coincidence that's what's happened. Like,
Right.
I've brought up muscle groups now that I've been trying to bring up for ages.
Yeah.
I couldn't bring up my legs for ages, and now they're caught back up to when I was younger. Yeah, you're right, man. Like,
Any of your clients, like especially female clients with polycystic ovarian syndrome and that, they got too much androgens. If you can teach them how to self-love and teach them to learn how to get into that oxytocin stuff, it can offset a lot of the androgen.
Well, that's what I'm implementing on all my new base clients now, and they're getting more regular periods, and they're everything's kind of setting a better routine for themselves. And they just think it's a diet, and I'm like, no, it's your lifestyle. The problem is, like we always say, people get caught up because they go, oh, your chain of thought, what you're manifesting is what you want. It's like, no, it's not what you want, it's what you believe. And it's what you believe is what's going on. And as I said, that's why I remind myself, I'll just be driving. If I look at my journal, I got you guys on my list, I'll cross that off when I leave, and then I'll go to Riggs after this and do my cold water therapy. I'll cross that off, and that's what I mean. Like when I'm on the ball with things and it's only 10 o'clock in the morning, I've done 6 things for the day already, already won the day.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck yeah, man.
Keep
pushing. Keep pushing. What else can you do?
I had this thought the other night. I was sitting there and I was just like, and when I was competing full-time, hardcore, every day for 10 years, and then there were some times where I thought I was told, just to stop and smell the roses for a bit and just sit back and have a think about what you've achieved. And sometimes I did it after the CrossFit Games. I'd be staring at my ceiling at 2 a.m. because I can't sleep after the CrossFit Games at all. Thinking there, saying, pat on the back. Didn't get the result I wanted, but pat on the back anyway. Well done. I don't know if I really believed it or not, whether I was patting my back because someone told me I should. But I was sitting there the other night and I had a wicked day. It was fucking phenomenal day. I was stoked with it. Everything kind of just went bang, 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 same thing. Ticking my things off the list. I got a bunch of stuff done before midday, and then things just kept rolling and rolling and rolling. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to take half an hour. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to be like, fuck, everything's going so well. Good on you. Well done. And you are so pinpoint. Maddie and I talk about this all the time, but the type of frequency we're putting off on a daily basis, especially being here on the Gold Coast, changed so much for me. But that type of frequency that we're putting off, and we're trying to spread as much happiness and joy and put smiles on people's faces on a daily basis, make someone's day on a daily basis. It's just coming back around, and it makes you feel fucking great.
It's the thing of paying it forward too. Like, you're not expecting anything in return.
No.
You know?
Yeah, doing it.
I went to the fucking gym after the first day you said to me about the Speedos thing. I'm walking, I'm like, girls, hey, sit down. All the girls at work, I got something really cool. And they're like, oh, what is it? I'm like, came out of the surf this morning. I got approached to be a fucking swimwear model, you know, like. But I felt good.
Yeah.
And then my fucking energy that I got from you, then I relayed it onto the team because they're in a good mood. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, like, and that's what I mean. Like, when you're doing things out of passion, that's why I love the saying of paying it forward. You're not expecting anything in return.
No.
Yeah.
You want those people that you help and teach or make better in whatever way it is, go out and tell 10 people about it.
Yeah.
And do the same.
Do the same for them. Don't expect anything back, and then those other 10 people go out. You know, I love that trait of paying it forward.
Yeah. That's why I love these podcasting and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
it's always been the biggest highlight.
Yeah, for Maddie, this was this podcast is, when we first sat down to talk about Phyba, which we rarely talk about on the pod, which is cool, which is exactly what we want. But the idea when we first got into chatting about this, Matt said to me, he goes, I have so much information built and backed up in this brain that it cannot be held at ransom for only the people that can afford to come and pay for a consult. But if we can put it through the podcast and we can touch a bunch of people's lives through the pod and maybe just give them one thing to work on, maybe one foundational piece that's helped us or one foundational piece that's helped you that you said today, that someone's going to listen and go, you know what? Maybe I will just journal for 5 minutes of an evening, and that changes the outlook on the whole entire day the next day. Fucking great, we've won. We've done a good thing. That's it.
Yeah,
that's all we wanted. All we wanted to do with the pod.
Yeah.
It's as I said, like, you have your own little goals and things to, search for that fulfillment, and that's where I find I've never, although I'm a pro bodybuilder and I've been in the bodybuilding scene, it's pretty easy to tell that I don't really like bodybuilders. I don't. Like, you won't really see me hang out with bodybuilders as a whole, because I've always thought they're in it for the wrong reasons. It's a lot of self-validation, a lot of insecurities, where for me, bodybuilding, the discipline of things, kept me out of trouble.
Yeah, well.
That's why competing for me, I've never really actually cared about.
Yeah, right,
You know, I just did it and I was good at it. You know, there was a time in my life where I was like, yeah, you know what, but now I look at it, I'm like, man, it's the best I've ever looked.
Yeah.
Ever.
Wow.
Everyone thinks I'm getting ready for a show, but as I said, I'm not trying. But, you know, what it comes back down to, my point is that, you know, when it comes to, you know, working for something and creating discipline and then obviously going on and helping others, you're putting yourself first. That's why I think, you know, building a physique is the first step for your manifestation, as far as working hard for something and seeing the result for yourself.
Yeah.
And then the discipline
And
factor.
owning it, literally owning
Yeah,
it.
and the discipline factor then comes in and says there is some things, as I said, like, you know, there's a lot of mornings where I don't want to wake up and do my morning routine or go to the gym and train legs this morning at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
You know, I would like to sleep in, you know. So you do have that discipline factor as well. But then when it comes to you wanting to buy a house and there's certain hoops you've got to jump through, fuck, I'll just do it, you know.
Yeah.
Or if I want to start a business, or if I want to work on my relationship or work on time with my daughter. You know, there's some tedious things that you got to do that you don't really want to do sometimes, but you do it, you know. So that's where I kind of got a lot of things from bodybuilding, and that's where I'm trying to teach people, myself as a coach, is not so, and that's why, like, a lot of my coaching clients aren't really competitors. Sure, I always have a team that I bring into a set of shows and they always do really well, but I'd say 80% of my clients are more people like us now, business owners, a lot of dads, a lot of females lost in their kind of traction and where they want to go, and, you know, that kind of turning point in my life. And that was the missing link for me, that holistic side. And then when I see it now, it's so funny when you see it for yourself. You see people and they open their mouth and talk, and you cut them off. You're like, are you going to say this, this, and this? Oh, fuck, how'd you know it? That was me.
Yeah,
You know, so then I can be really hard on them and say, look, I know you're talking shit. I know you're fucking depressed, blah blah. And when I finish it, I say, because that was me.
Yeah,
You know, everything I'm saying is actually directed at me, not so much you. So, you know, you can kind of call them out on their bullshit. You know, which I wish someone did to me, but you know. Now I get to come through and give that back to people, you know, and that's, as I said, I go to bed every night now, so happy that I'm influencing people for the right reason. It's not just something two-dimensional like a diet and a training plan.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
So you've changed all these aspects of your life, bringing this holistic stuff, which has massive effects onto your central nervous system and the vagus nerve tone and all that sort of stuff that helps to control your gut. You've made significant changes to your diet as well?
Yeah, so when you and I sat down, you know, I hope my specialist doesn't hear this podcast, but I had no fucking idea what Crohn's was, man.
Yeah.
I thought it was like cancer related. You're like, no, it's not. And you explained everything to me. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. So I got to look for this, look out for that, whatever. And just through kind of trial and error, then I did some more research and just kind of went down my own path, looked at a few things. And then the other thing too, obviously, when I announced I had Crohn's, every man and his dog comes out and says, oh, I got Crohn's, and my sister's got Crohn's, and my friend's boyfriend has Crohn's. Or, so many people fucking have it, right? Yeah.
Hey?
So common. I didn't realize how many people have it.
Just for the listeners, do we want to elaborate a little bit? Because I would like to know a little bit more about it. I've had some friends that have had it, but give us a lowdown on what exactly is happening in the body with Crohn's.
So basically, it's an autoimmune condition. So what's happened is 80% of our immune system lives on the gut wall. It decides what's happening through the body's priorities. The immune system might sample something. Now, with Crohn's, it typically samples a small protein-based antigen, which means the triggers for Crohn's might be an infection, like a bacteria or typically a fungus or something like that, or that combined with some protein, specific protein foods and that sort of stuff. The immune system then gets confused and tries to attack it, and in doing so attacks the gut lining. And as it does that, it just releases so much inflammation, so much mucus and swelling and that sort of stuff that just compromises all the digestion and makes it so that your actual microbes are more likely to actually ferment the food, creating more slime, creates a bit of a vicious cycle of fermentation and immune reactivity.
And is it painful?
Meant to be. The reason why mine was so dangerous and why I got put in a hospital and everything like that, I don't have any sides.
Interesting.
Yeah. But my only sides are obviously I shit heaps. And it's soft, but again, you just think because you eat so much food, it's
training hard.
You just think, oh, it's just a normal thing, no reason to get checked out. So yeah, they kind of found mine by accident. But again, controlling my stress levels, because I think Crohn's has a big thing to do with stress.
Massive.
You know, so again, working on my holistic health, the stress levels, and then as I kind of researched, looked at a few things, eliminated a lot of things out of my diet, I kind of naturally fell into like that carnivore realm, and I did that for about a month or so because I wasn't training anyway, and that's no carbs, so it kind of just worked out well for me. And then I just started introducing things from that, various carbohydrates like sweet potato and rice, and obviously to help me train. And
they sit well with you?
Yeah, like really well.
Cool.
You know, like so now it's not hard for me. That's why Crohn's as well is kind of, when I had that surgery, it's a blessing in disguise because it forces me now to stay on a diet and not veer away from it. And being a hardcore bodybuilder for so many years where you get ready for a show and eat fish and greens, you know, I like my steak and eggs. So it works well for me, you know what I mean? It's not hard for me to eat that.
That's great.
You know what I mean? So if it's kind of like, you know, if someone said, what's the one food you could eat for the rest of your life? Well, I mean, for me, I've always liked that. So I go ahead and eat it. So, you know, and then since then, you know, like it's funny because the drugs that I've been told to take and everyone says, oh, you know, don't take these drugs they tell you to take, you know, you feel like shit and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, it's true. I feel like shit. Yeah. So I started just kind of being a little bit more carnivore bias with the foods that I eat. And then I go get my tests and stuff, and they're like, oh, your Crohn's is starting to lower a little bit. You know, drugs are working. I'm like, oh, are they? Yeah, drugs are working. I don't fucking take them.
Yeah. You know? That carnivore thing, so with that carnivore strategy, so with that Crohn's, when I said the microbes that can trigger the immune reaction, most of those things are living in the lower part of the intestine, you know, right down into the large intestine towards the end. And so typically what happens is the foods that are most likely to ferment and the foods that are still available for the bugs at that lower part of the bowel are typically complex carbs. So most people, when they get gut problems, they go to the specialist and they say, just go on a bland diet, just live on rice or, that's sweet potato.
That's what he said to me,
Yeah, and you're sitting there, well, that's pretty much all I eat. And
I said that to you, remember?
Yeah. And then they basically, the food, so what happens is those complex carbs are making it down to the lower part of the bowel, which is feeding the bugs and allowing them to ferment it. That keeps the vicious cycle going. At any moment, whenever you don't know what's happening in bowels, so any naturopaths or any coaches or anything out there, if you don't know what to do, the first way to break the cycle is we avoid all complex carbs for a short period of time. And it's crazy. So you can either, you take away all what is perceived to be a healthy food or a bland food or a high fiber food, because you want to take away the complex carbs to starve the bugs, stop them fermenting everything and making the slime, to let the immune system to back off. So you can do that by switching carnivore, where you're not getting the complex carbs, or for the plant eaters, they basically got to go high fat but avoid the complex carbs. Glucose, for example, this is what's so stupid about it. In intensive care, when you go and everything's really bad, and they put you some tube or something to feed you, in that, they basically use canola oil, glucose, and then an amino acid blend with some vitamins. And so
the worst combination you can have for it.
Worst things you could ever imagine. But all of a sudden, your guts settle down. And the main reason why is because the glucose gets absorbed so quickly. There's no sugars in the lower part of the bowel, and then the whole process slows down.
Yeah, so that's why I did have some carbs around training, which was cyclic dextrin, because I looked up on that. That passes through the fastest out of all those kind of carb powders. So that's been a really good alternative. And again, like I'm learning things that I use with my clients now,
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the only really kind of carb I did. And then I did that for about 2 months, say right up to Christmas, over Christmas. And then I tested myself because I went away for Christmas in my family. And the week I was down there, I'm like, fuck it, it's Christmas. I'm going to eat and drink and see what happens. Didn't get any flare-ups or anything like that. Everything was good.
Great.
Which I went back on my diet, obviously, when I got back and everything like that. And then, as in the last probably month or so, that's where I started to put a little bit of rice post-workout, just see what would happen.
Yeah.
Nothing really changed, Started adding a bit of sweet potato later in the day. Nothing really changed. And then I started using like kefir yogurts in with my shakes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's, now I'm shitting the first time normal in 10 years,
Wow.
15 years.
Wow.
And that's the postbiotic compounds. That's what I love about these things. So they actually go through and ferment the foods, ferment the sugars out of the foods, convert those sugars into these things called short-chain fatty acids. And those short-chain fatty acids are the actual fuel for your gut lining. So they're the preferred fuel to heal up your gut lining. So as soon as you go into those postbiotic style fermented foods, you're going to get those. And the problem also with any of these inflammatory bowel disorders is once you lose that microbiome coating because of all that immune activity, then when you do eat those foods, normally in a healthy gut, you eat those fiber, they convert to short chain fatty acids, which is direct fuel to heal your guts. If you got the wrong bugs there, totally makes the wrong compounds, that triggers an immune reaction.
Yeah.
And as we change that over with things like those fermented foods you use, and it's genius. One of the other things, man, new research showing on things like citrulline. So you know how like citrulline, we always supplement with citrulline.
Pre-workout and stuff.
Yeah, pre-workout to make arginine as a vasodilator. And then get maximal pump. So that way it's great for bodybuilders to swell up that fascia, get more leverage, and lift more power, that sort of stuff, but also for muscle growth. They've worked out in recent times, because there was all these papers talking about athletes when they travel getting upset gut, or people with infections and things like, or people when they had bowel surgery, they can use citrulline, low dose citrulline regularly, and actually stop the muscle damage and the muscle loss from gut inflammation. They even did this one study where they bathed the body with lipopolysaccharide, which again is the bacterial cell walls from even the good guys, but just shows if you've got a leaky gut wall, you get inflammation that can destroy your muscle. Citrulline was shown to stop that. And the way it does it is citrulline kind of sits in between glutamine and arginine.
Yeah.
So what happens is our glutamine lives in our gut, and our glutamine keeps that gut nice and tight so you don't have as much permeability.
Yep.
But glutamine converts to citrulline, and citrulline converts to arginine. So when we're training a lot, when we're stressed, when we're trying to tell our brain, our body needs the muscles full of blood for survival aspects, it actually strips all the glutamine. The more muscle you got and the more vascular you got, the more glutamine gets stripped from your gut to feed the citrulline to make sure you've got adequate arginine.
Yeah, right.
So
okay.
you can fight
Makes
stress.
sense.
So when people are doing like 8 and 10 grams of citrulline as a pre-workout, they're designed to be doing it, just once in a blue moon. You don't take anything. Let's take a pre-workout today.
Yeah.
Put you into the gym and see how your bench press is compared to a guy without citrulline.
Yeah.
Pretty irrelevant for most studies, but when you do the low dose, like I'm only talking 1 or 2 grams a day, which is more likely what you get through your diet when you're eating a healthy
Correct,
diet.
yeah.
And that just keeps this buffer. It's almost like a buffer level between the glutamine and arginine. So if you need your gut healing, then you've got the glutamine for it. But if you need the vasodilation, it can go that way.
Transport it, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's there's so many cool little tricks like that we can get into.
And citrulline, we're looking at high levels of citrulline in watermelon.
Yeah, watermelon. Actually, the citrulina, that's the botanical name for watermelon.
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's in watermelon. Heaps in the watermelon peel. So not so much in the bit that
Oh, the
we
one
actually eat.
okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I think we all share a common sporting background. We all played rugby back in the day. We all played a bit of football.
Yeah.
Have you always been athletic? Have you always done stuff outside, or is it something that
Yeah, so when it's funny, I coached my first coach now. I was talking to him on the phone last night.
Great. That's cool.
And I said to him, man, dude, like, he was from America. At the time, he was a big black dude from America. And so I said last night, I said, dude, you don't remember this because he's 60 now. You know Eric McIntyre?
No, I don't think
Nick and
so.
stuff know him. They all know him. And back in the day, 100 kgs, and I was like, 80 kilos. So I'm like, he's a big dude, And he was just staring at me in the gym, and pretty intimidating kind of guy. And and he's like, you're strong. And I just walked past him because he's talking to the guy behind me, I was only 17.
Yeah.
But I was trying to get bigger because I took a year off, for footy because I was a late developer. I always played up an age. And, he came to me, he's like, do this, do that, whatever. I'll take you in bodybuilding, you'll go really well. And I said to him last night on the phone when I consulted with him, I said, dude, just if you remember, I said to you, if I ever make it Olympia stage, I'm going to buy you a ticket. Because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now, So that's how I got into bodybuilding. But before that, it was all football. And I was trying to get bigger for football or whatever, but I didn't have the balls, I was a good player. But I'd play better, in the backyard. I'd run rings around everyone. But when it came to like a big event or something, I'd choke.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
And I couldn't handle the criticism from coaches when they say, you fucked up or whatever.
Yeah.
Take it real personal.
Yeah.
Cry about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why when I got the opportunity to be a bodybuilder from a dude that I respected in the gym, I'm like, man, this is my kind of last chance to really represent and do something cool with it. Because I knew I had it. I knew I had the ability to do something great in a sport. I just wanted to always represent a country, a sport, and love football, but I just knew I just didn't have the balls for it, Like I was a good player.
Good you changed though, because I had the same fear of failure and stuff like that to the point that I wouldn't even try. I went towards the
Matty,
drugs and alcohol as
I would
an
overanalyze.
excuse,
I would overanalyze. I was too, like you figure out plays or what you have to do, and it was just, you always play your best when you're natural. Like you look at the guys that play now, and some of these freaks that come out that I used to verse, and these young guys coming out now, and they're just playing their natural game like they play in the backyard.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's with most sports. You know what I mean? Like, and when you try and become too technical, and then you're not thinking about your natural game, so I fucked myself. You know what I mean? So that's why when it came down the bodybuilding route, I'm like, look, I just got to let someone else take the reins. And he was a hard ass too. He was, hey man, how's you doing? Don't ask me how I'm going. You've got a show coming up. So I was like, oh, cool. Right, okay, sweet. But because I had a bit of it from football, I could cop it from him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So real straight down the line kind of dude. And now the way I talk to him now, like he's like, oh, how you going? And I'm like, don't ask me how I'm going. We're talking about your show on season B. And he's like, oh, you had a bad day. I said, no, don't you remember when you said that to me when I was a kid?
I love that. That is fucking cool.
That's awesome.
So in terms of like when you were, do you remember any of the stat? I know people love metrics, people love stats. Back when you were like 18 to 20, do you know what you were benching back in the day, squatting back in the day, deadlifting back in the day?
I was always a pretty strong dude.
Yeah.
I think I started my bodybuilding journey 17, 18. I could probably hit a 1 rep max, like a 140 bench.
Wow. That's pretty impressive.
180, 200 kilo squat for one rep back then.
Yep.
Didn't really deadlift because I didn't know how.
Yep.
But then, like, if you talk about my PB numbers,
Yeah.
you know, like before I started tearing my pecs, because, you know, again, you think barbell bench is the best thing to grow your chest.
Oh, what is the best thing to grow your chest?
Don't ask me because I've got a small chest. But again, that just comes from just ego lifting when I was younger. Like, I always had good form, but you watch a lot of, like, I used to love watching Ronnie Coleman and all that, so you're like, oh, you got a barbell bench press. But, you know, it's funny, like, I look back at, say, my last Arnold's prep from my last show 4 years ago. 4 years ago, shit. And I was training the house down. I was 6 plates squatting aside, 8 reps.
Wow.
Bench pressing 4 plates aside for reps, deadlifting 7 plates. This is like 2-3 weeks out too.
Yep.
Yeah, wow.
Like, not fucking around. But I'll be walking in with a jarred fucking QL, and I'm like, fuck, just push through it. You know, you got a pro show. Yeah. You versus Rolly Winkler and Dexter Jackson, these guys you look up to as a kid.
Yeah.
You know, you got to fucking step up, man. You know, so I pushed through it, but my legs are twice the size of what they were back then. Yeah. On a barbell squat. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's just shit like that where you learn. I had to do that kind of stuff as far as all the meathead lifts. Because, I guess they kind of set a foundation for strength. They more set you a foundation for the mindset of what you have to put into a set. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because when you come up and you come for that 6th rep on a barbell squat and you're shaking like that and the dude's like, fucking one more, you know, and you're like, fuck, I'm going to rip a quad out here, but I'll just fucking do it, fuck it, you know? But although it was quite stupid, I don't suggest people to do that. I don't regret any of it, because even with all my pec tears and shit, because now that intensity, I now apply it smart into how I train now. So with tempo work and intensity techniques and, my shift change and form and exercise selection with my body's mechanics as well.
Yeah, that's so interesting you say that, because that's exactly the mentality that I have with it. There have been some times where I was like, probably shouldn't push this lift, but I'm going to anyway. I'm going to do it. And you know what? I got through unscathed, luckily, but there were some times where I was like, you know what, this is just going up regardless whether I like it or not, it's going to go up. And then now, but I put all of those learning and journey and experience practices now into play. And then when people ask me the question of what's my next move to get to here, I have such a better understanding of what's required, and I can give them my personal experience, and they don't have to make the mistakes I made, and you can just bump them a step ahead for them, not for you, but for them. And, I think those experiences you kind of need. You can't tell someone a particular outcome because it might be different from them, but you got to let them make their mistakes. But if you can navigate them across a pathway that's going to allow them to be better without making detrimental effects where they're going to take a fucking year off the gym because they fucked their back, then that's a good thing, right?
Well, yeah, that's what I say to people. Like, I got young guys and they're like, oh, yeah, here's a video. And they send me a video, like a 1 rep max on a bench. I'm like, don't fucking do that, And I rip them in hard for it, because I said, dude, like, I get it, and you can hit it. That's great. It's like me when I hit my first 4-plate bench press. Hit about 4 reps, and it's good. It's a good feeling. Everyone stops in the gym. They look at you. It's your ego boost, But also the following week, I'd go for 5, and I'd get a light strain on my pec, and I'm out for 4 to 6 weeks. And then you don't train really for 8 because your confidence is down. Yeah. You do that 3 or 4 times a year, you're not training your chest for 6 months.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Do you know what I mean? And that's what I say to them. They go, what's the fastest way to grow? Don't get injured.
Yeah. Consistency. That's the number one thing we talk about, and that's with anyone comes and says, "Hey, I want to go to the CrossFit Games or I want to go to Nationals." It's like, cool. Yeah. What's the number one piece of advice I'd give to anyone? It's like, man, if you can chop wood and carry water and do the basics very well every single day and be the most consistent athlete on a daily basis all year round for the next 2, 3, 4 years, you'll be probably elite in whatever the fuck you do. That is it. Simple as that.
Animal studies. Like, I read a lot about the farming stuff. That you learn a lot about nutrition by the carcass qualities of animals through farming. But one of the ways that the biggest problem with maximising the amount of muscle that they've got on a beast is basically by stopping gut inflammation. So when they do the feedlots, and all the manipulation into the feed is all about stopping periods of gut inflammation or infection that actually compromises their ability to feed, and they lose more muscle by actually having an inflamed gut. And the biggest innovation for farming now is they actually fortifying foods with things like butyrate. And butyrate's actually a short-chain fatty acid that's made from the gut bugs that
Wow.
breaks the actual gut lining. So they're
Wow, that
finding,
seems cool.
Yeah, so they're fortifying the animal's food with butyrate to actually maintain their gut lining, and they're finding that that's doing more towards building muscle mass and everything as well. They even found the butyrate activates satellite cell migration, so you do get more muscle hypertrophy as well because you're in a better, safer spot to grow.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
interesting.
Even heat shock
Yeah.
and everything, they found the short-chain fatty acid stops the animals that are exposed to extreme heat stress and everything like that from losing muscle as well.
Oh, that's something I like to.
And that's just gut. That stuff is made. It's found in dairy and stuff like that, but it's also made out of the fibre from your microbiome feeding on fibre.
Wow, that's cool, man.
Yeah, if you got the bugs and if you got a gut lining to utilise it, you know.
So from where you were bodybuilding, say 4 years ago, to where it is now, there's been some changes in terms of the classes that have been popping up. Is there a new class I've seen? Is it classic?
Classic physique.
Has that always been a part of it, or is that something new? And
It's a newer division, yeah.
Okay.
And
what is that more looking for in terms of what we would see, like, in the Ronnie Coleman phase? Or
yeah, so bodybuilding itself, obviously they're freaks of nature, where classic is bringing back like the Arnold Schwarzenegger look.
yeah, okay, more large but athletic. At the
Yeah,
same
like
time?
I said, like they got a height and weight ratio they have to stick to.
Okay,
Okay.
Where the open guys like me, they just get big and
as big as possible.
ugly,
Because
Yeah,
there are people like Jay Cutler and Phil Heath and like even
exactly.
Clive Greens and those guys kind of created that era with.
It's just massive. Like, and the thing is,
freakiness.
like, I love it all. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
I love the shit, but
yeah.
me myself, classic physique appeals to someone like me because I'm a very aesthetic guy, and you're kind of fighting against your genetics where I'm. It's
taller.
hard. Yeah, that's what I mean. So because people don't realize pro bodybuilders, a tall pro bodybuilder, they're 5'8".
Yeah.
Wow.
Big Remy's
Wow.
comes up to here. So
Yeah.
Barney actually when you he says he's 6'2", but he's only
He's not.
6'2".
Yeah, he's not. Yeah.
Man, he looks tall as shit.
No, they all look big because they're all the same height.
Yeah.
But like when I walked backstage my first pro show, I knew I was going to be small, so I was about 108. I was peeled, I'm like, I knew it's going to be shredded because they're all going to be way bigger than me, whatever. But I'm sitting out the back. I was the first one there, excited, pumping up. Look back and they come out and they're all fucking midgets.
Yeah, wow.
And I'm like, oh shit, I reckon this might be all right. But as soon as they take the gear off, you're like, oh fuck. Fuck
good.
this,
They look good. So
Hey, I was just thinking too when we're talking about classic and talking about Arnie and all that. Remember that era of that like 80s, 90s and all that sort of stuff with the bodybuilding.
That's my
which
favourite, yeah.
was wicked. But also, man, when you watch those old videos and stuff like that, and a lot of these guys used to train together. Like they'd all be in there. They'd be like firing each other up. That oxytocin thing you were talking about before about that.
the fun.
Just that
excitement.
love and stuff, because a lot of bodybuilders will train alone or they'll train with one dude, and there's a lot of angst and aggression and stuff like that. But back in that heyday when they're down at like that.
Go on the beach and tan after and
Yeah,
eat
yeah,
together
man.
and train
Yeah,
together.
because when you go over there and you go to that fireman breakfast place near, it was the original, or the
Venice.
Gold's Gym.
Venice.
Yeah, Venice Beach, but not the original where they were. But
Yeah.
but it's just that vibe and everyone in there, and you got people like Charles Glass walking around making everyone feel amazing.
And dude, that's why for me, when I started my own gym, that's what I wanted to recreate. I wanted to kind of recreate a good atmosphere where people feed off each other, and that's why I don't really like bodybuilders as a whole, because they talk shit about each other. It's like, dude, you know what the most embarrassing thing is? You see them call each other out on Instagram and Facebook, and you're like, man,
This is not what
what
it's
the
about.
fuck? Like, and then they go, yeah, we'll settle it. We'll settle on a stage. I'm like, dude, you wear a fucking G-string and fake tan, and you're going to flex your muscles to see who's more of a fucking man? Are you fucking kidding me?
And it's such subjective
Are
judging.
you
anyway.
kidding me? And you hate each other because this guy down the front thought I looked better than you.
Yeah.
So you hate me because of that?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
And this is all based on some dodgy photos that someone's uploaded.
and that's why I've never. Yeah, of course you don't. I don't know how to respond to that either.
Karen.
You know, so like for me, like that's why bodybuilders, for me, I don't really hang out with them, because it's just like when you sit down with them, it's always macros and gear and training and fucking shut up. Like, talk to me about your fucking kids or your life. Like what's going on? Like it's so two-dimensional.
Yeah.
Where for me, I love training and dieting just as the lifestyle itself, because it helps me doing what I do, right? So when I kind of wanted to recreate my gym, that's the vibe I wanted to have. I wanted people that, I don't care if you're some fat middle-aged fucking mum coming in to train, you shouldn't be intimidated by someone like me because we're all training hard, you know. The direction of the fundamentals and the benefits of bodybuilding is lost. It's very, very short-sighted, very for short-term validation. A lot of insecurities, and
only as good as your last trophy or your last placing or
dude,
something like that.
and that's why I've started to realize, I won all these shows as an amateur and I breezed through it. Like I turned pro in 3 years. I got offered my pro card when I was my first year out of juniors. I said no because I didn't win the overall, but I still got offered to me anyway. I never had fulfillment out of winning those shows. I'd always be like, oh yeah, and that was a really hard era where I came through and turned pro too. And these top guys that I beat, guys I look up to, and I did it easy. No one really challenged me, and it wasn't satisfying. Like I was getting more satisfaction out of getting you ready for a show, and you win it, and you're so happy coming back. I was like, fuck yeah, you won it. Like how good's that? Like I'd get more out of that. Where with me, it was like, oh yeah, like, and that's where, as I said, like, a lot of bodybuilders love to talk about themselves. I'm a private dude, and I like a lifestyle. I like going out and doing things. I like to look good. I like to go out and be spontaneous and all this kind of stuff, and keep a healthy, balanced lifestyle so I can do stuff for my daughter. I want to look good for my daughter, so when she looks back, she goes, oh yeah, my dad was jacked. That's cool,
Yeah.
But, but at the same time, like I still want to be able to go do stuff and not be restricted and be like, oh shit, it's like it's not as complex as what they have to make it out and become. I think too much of anything becomes toxic. If you've got a missus and you're hanging around with her 24/7, it's going to be fucking toxic. You know what I mean? So bodybuilding's the same.
Yeah, exactly. It's super interesting, and I found that so much as well. It's like you're trying to find the balance with such an unbalanced state that you're in, trying to be the best in whatever you're going to do. It's like when I was training for the CrossFit Games, it was selfish. It was so self-centered. There was no balance whatsoever, and you had to be okay with being misunderstood by absolutely everybody, and that can only last so long. You can only put up with so long, and you can only ask your loved ones to put up with that for so long until you have to say, you know what, I'm going to take a back seat. And now I train on a daily basis. I enjoy it, but it's not my first priority. It's like probably 3 or 4 down the line, but I still make it as part of my foundational piece that I do on a daily basis because it grounds me and it makes me smarter for the rest of the day to put that into work, business, relationships, networking, having a good time. And for Maddie and I, and this probably goes for you too, that whatever we do, we said this at the beginning when we first got together and he first stitched me up and told me to come meet him down at the Burleigh Pub for a business meeting. And then I decided to move to the Gold Coast.
Half an hour later, he's going, I'm moving to the Gold Coast. It was one of those magic days, like the catwalk inside, the barrels.
He told me the story about this. Yeah,
it's fucked. But no, it's like absolute blessing because it's turned into something that is, firing up and making me jump out of bed at 4:30 in the morning every day. It just fired up to get after it. And I love that. But I want other people to be like that too. I want them to feel the joy and excitement that I get as well. And the biggest thing for me is doing all these things is just, like you said, you get so much satisfaction out of not only fulfilling yourself, which has to come first because if you're no good to yourself, you're no good to anyone. But then also putting that joy and smile on somebody else's face at the same time. And if we can do that, we're fucking kicking goals. But yeah, just I guess tacking on from that, where do you see yourself in, say, like the next 6 to 12 months? You plan on getting back on stage, or you just having a good time doing what you're doing? I know you're a private guy.
I was talking to Eric last night. My first coach that I coached now, right? So he's like, what are you doing, man? Like, you're looking amazing. It's the best I've seen you. I'm like, yeah, everyone says the same thing. I think I'm going to do something end of the year.
Cool.
The good thing is how I'm sitting right now, I'd only need 6 weeks to get ready for a show instead of 20.
Great.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to let my body keep responding. I guess the reason why I can't answer it is because classic physique, I've got to be 109 on stage. My last show was 120.
I was about to say that. I was going to say how much.
So if I was to get ready for a show right now, I'm sitting at 127. I'd probably come in 122, 123. So I'd have to lose a lot of muscle mass. But at the same time, if I had to verse the big boys for my height, I'd probably need to come in on stage 125 plus. which wouldn't be too hard for me to get to. It just takes a bit more time. Yeah, so I guess I'm just kind of in that little bit of a halfway point.
Sure.
At the end of the day, still though, I've still got to perfect my physique. There's areas I've got to bring up my chest and my upper back and hamstrings that I've got to bring up anyway. So even if I was to go downsize to classic physique, you still have to go into a surplus to build those areas, and then you downsize as a whole.
Yeah.
You can't just downsize certain areas and bring up other areas because you can't grow in a deficit. You know what I mean? So regardless, I just got to keep letting my body grow and just let it respond.
Sounds like the natural approach is working for you.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like the training side of things is just all falling in a plan, and as I said, it's very effortless because although I'm training the house down and eating like an animal and fucking going hard, it's not like, as I said, oh shit, we're going overboard, I've got to have a meal, or I've got to do this, or it's just happening very easy. So I'm just letting it happen, and if it keeps going the way it's going, I might compete next year.
Cool.
You know what I mean? But it's funny, like, even when I do compete, especially with my family, because this is a very extreme lifestyle, I'm very close with my family. I don't tell them that I compete. Yeah. I was a week out from my last Arnold's. Dad's like, shit, you're actually quite lean. You doing like a show? Yeah, soon. Soon. Next weekend I fly down to Arnold's and compete in the Arnold's. You know what I mean? So, do you know what I mean? So I don't lie to them. I just, as I said, like
sounds like me.
Well, you know what? Like when you do a sport, which is out of the ordinary too. So it's not like you're playing the NRL or the AFL. You're doing CrossFit or you do pro bodybuilding. It's quite out there and people don't know a lot about it. I can't be fucked explaining it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
Like they're not interested in it because they don't follow it. They're interested in you and what makes you happy, but I don't want to talk about myself because if you talk about yourself and your success to certain people, including family members, it just feels like you're fucking bragging.
You know what
I mean? So I just relayed the question back. Like, yeah, training's going good. How are you going? And I go back on them because I don't want to talk about myself.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? I like to hear what they're doing. I like to talk about what they're doing. So for me, I don't expect them. In my younger years when I first started and I was competing naturally and stuff like that, I was like every other fuckwit bodybuilder. I thought the world had to revolve around me. Like I'm doing it so hard. You should help me. Blah blah. It's like no, I chose to fucking do this. So when I do it, I don't want my daughter to pick up on that I'm tired and hungry or whatever it is. You know what I mean? I don't want my family to look at me and say, "Fuck, you're a bit grumpy at the dinner table." Like, and that's how I keep it. And that's how. And I just, as I said, as long as you just fit it into your lifestyle, you might cut some calories, but it's not that fucking hard.
It means you don't have to do all those Instagram posts about the sacrifice that you've made leaving your family and everyone to the hours in the gym.
Fuck.
The sacrifice that you make to
my
be away
hardest
from your
show.
children.
I mean, I won all my shows and turned pro pretty easy. And the only show that kind of did my head in, I was 5 weeks out from my pro qualifier. And I took 5 weeks off work thinking I'd do like a 5-week camp. It was the worst thing I could have done. On Instagram all day, looking at my competitors, looking who's competing, where all my pro shows I did after that, people were like, how are you fucking working 12, 14 hours a day? It's because when you're working, you're keeping busy, you're distracted from the bullshit that's going on in your head.
Yeah.
So that's what I do now. That's why I guess that's what I'm doing now. The training bodybuilding side of things, it's not that I've lost passion with it.
Yeah.
I'm just distracted with all the extra shit that I'm doing now for my business, my daughter, my self-work.
Right.
Because that's my priority.
Well, making you the best version of yourself.
Exactly. And then the training just kind of falls into place.
Yeah.
You said it before, when your stress levels are down and you're releasing oxytocin.
Yeah.
Which I think I'm doing. My body's just going in that kind of right direction. So, I think I've looked at a few shows later in the year.
Cool.
They'll unfortunately we got to travel. Being Aussie,
Yeah.
we had the Arnolds here, but we got to travel doing all that. So
Feels.
yeah, so I'll do a stint. I'll probably go for 3-4 weeks. I spoke to my ex, who I'm on really good terms with. She's a great mother. I said to her, I do want to take Naya with me if I go overseas. So I'll do like a road map in America. I want to stay there for 2 or 3 weeks after and take her to Disneyland and all that kind of shit.
That's great.
Which I even said to her too. Like we're not weird like that. Like I could fucking say to her, come to America. You might stay in a separate hotel. But that way you can go do some shit and I'll have her. If I got to go train, you take her. Do you know what I mean? So we're still trying to talk about those things as well. Like, again, nothing's really set in concrete. It's just more so I've just kind of put those feelers out there, so we can work together, because, you know, the kid is our business as well. You know, and you see these partners tearing each other apart, trying to fuck each other over through the kid, but the kid just gets fucked.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? That's what we sat down when we didn't work out. We just kind of just sitting. We never fought. We just kind of went separate ways, and we're like, fuck, I don't want her to see, you know, us just living as flatmates.
Yeah.
Let's be happy with someone else if we meet someone, and
Yeah.
you know, man, and that's how we've always worked. So that's my big thing. If I go compete, I just don't think I could fucking leave my daughter for longer than a week. It's hard now doing week on, week off.
Yeah.
I was texting her on the way down here while I'm driving. Fuck, how is she? Is she all good? Like,
Yeah.
sometimes I message her and I'm like, hey, do you need
Yeah.
to go to yoga tonight? Do you need me to take her or anything like that? You know, she knows what I'm doing. She's like, no, I need to go to yoga. I'm like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
I love it.
So,
Oh, man.
Is that
Yeah,
not seeing them every day? That'd be so damn hard. Like,
well, it's fucked because, like, it's always, because, you know, Monday to Friday when we're working, we've got that routine and we've got to pick her up and it's a little bit frantic. So, you know, it's like Saturday, Sunday, they start to really calm down. They open up and, you know, then end of Sunday comes, you're like, fuck, you got to go back tomorrow.
Damn.
And Monday, as I said, so I'm like the weekend warrior now. You know, you come in Monday and you hate Mondays.
Yeah.
It's a bit like me now, I kind of drag my feet Monday.
Yeah.
I want my daughter back, you know.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, man, it's been so good to get to know you a little bit more on a deeper level, except for our, you know, morning sits at the beach when we sit there.
I miss you, man.
Yeah, I know. We literally sit there, we'll chat for maybe 5 minutes, and then we just both stare off into the horizon for the next 10.
But you know what's funny, dude? Like, I've spoken to people about this, and I think when you got a certain, I don't know whether it's just certain profile or whatever, people that you're comfortable around, which is why I gravitate to you a lot, is because you don't feel like you have to fucking talk to people.
Yeah.
You know, I just like to sit there in my own time and do it. I'm down there to watch the fucking sunrise.
Yeah.
I'm not there to talk to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll say, hey, dude, you know, how you been? Yeah, good, blah, blah. And it's not awkward like, fuck, should I say something? It's just like, I just look out in the sunrise, and then obviously if something comes up. You know when like someone, they feel like they
Force it?
blah, 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 and you're like, fucking shut up, man. What the fuck?
Yeah,
You know,
no,
like,
I'm down there
All
for
my
a good
best
morning
mates
too.
are like that.
Yeah.
It's a very low maintenance and don't feel like
so,
you have
like
to
you talk
entertain
about
each other.
best mates, dude. Like I got fucking 3 of them.
Yeah.
They live on the coast. I see them for an hour once every 6 months, I reckon.
Yeah.
If that. Dude, I'm talking if that. We talk, like, obviously we text and Instagram, but if that, you know. But I know if I call them at any time,
Always
they're
there.
fucking ready to rock and roll. Let's go. No questions asked.
Yep.
Let's go. You know, where other people, you know, it's like, oh, Maddie, you haven't messaged me in a few weeks. Is everything okay?
Yeah.
It's like, dude, I'm fucking busy. You're busy. Like, fuck off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it actually just pushes me away from that, you know. So as I said, that's why, like, when I can kind of sit down there and, you know, I can just, you know, have a chat to someone, then it doesn't feel like I have to talk, and we just kind of go off and, you know, you kind of thinking through your head your gratitude and what you got to do for the day, and you just appreciate a nice sunrise. You know what I mean? Like, it's you don't kind of get any of that
It's
awkward
natural.
energy, you know?
It's like you were saying, with pretty much everything that you're approaching in your life at the moment is effortless. It's pretty much what it flows into. It's just an effortless relationship with what you're doing on a daily basis, with the people that you're surrounding yourself with. It's not a task. It's it's all just energy. It's not good or bad energy, like Maddie and I talk about all the time. It's just energy, and it's all good stuff.
Yep. Yeah.
You know what's a cool flex, man, is when you talk to people that are really humble people like you guys, right? And again, I see this in the bodybuilding world, so it probably sounds like I'm hating on bodybuilders, but it's like you see a lot of people, they have to have this kind of flex to when you first meet them. Yeah, I do this and I do that and I do this. And it's like, you know, I met Maddie for the first time. I met you for the first time. And you kind of go on the Instagram where you ask people, and you're like, yeah, dude, Matt's like one of the fucking smartest people. This. I go on you're like this full hectic fucking CrossFitter, 200,000 followers, and like, but you don't come across like, you know, you know, I'm here, you know what I mean? Like, it's, you get those people like that, you know?
Yeah, no,
and it's a cool flex, you know, because it's the same thing. Like when, you know, as I said, I know dudes now that have shitloads of money that I never knew. You go meet up for a coffee and they get on their fucking Ferrari and you're like, fuck, that's cool. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, guys are posting their shit all over social media, but you know, when you see someone that turns up and they're just humble and and they turn up and that's their flex. It's like, fuck, that's mad.
Yeah, and
Love that shit.
Yeah, and Matty was probably the guy that said it the best when we first were, like, we've been working together for a long time, but from correspondence. And then when we first got together, the first thing we spoke about when we were like, let's do this thing together, and this is a really good way for us to bond more. But Matty, immediately, the first thing we spoke about was ego versus soul, and we wanted to always operate out of a direction of always soul over ego, and to never get ego in the way of what we're doing and what our values are as part of the business and a friendship. And that's kind of what I feel like we're abiding by, and that's why we'll never let business go in the direction where, and this is probably the same thing for you and your gym and the business that you run, your online programming, is if you can always operate out of the direction or the place that is most concise to how you want to abide by and live by these particular set of rules or guidelines or ethos that you might have for your business, you're always going to do much better. We don't ever want to introduce someone into the flow of what we're doing that comes from a place of ego. Otherwise, it's going to ruin the recipe that we have at the moment that we're loving so much and what gets us out of bed to have a good time. So, yeah, that's...
Dude, yeah, like when it comes to your overall passion and vision, that's what I've always stuck by, you know. And I think that what I've learned, say with bodybuilding, you know, there's no money in bodybuilding, but I make good money because I have a passion from the fundamentals for it, and I follow my passion doing it. Yeah. But then there's guys that I speak to that are like, man, I'm broke, I can't make any money, like, and it's like, I don't want to say it's all about money because it is all about money. We are trying to live a good life and live in financial freedom. But if you don't have your core values intact, which actually begins with your own core values towards yourself, the byproduct of money is never going to come.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, completely.
And that's ever since I got out of hospital, where as I said, I put myself first and just forgot about everything because I thought everything was fucked. In the short space of 6 months, everything quadrupled.
Yeah, wow.
You know?
That's crazy.
That's sweet.
Oh, well, that's a lesson for everyone that's listening.
Yeah.
Just
for the quadruple and let's go.
Yeah, sit back and have a think about that. Well, we're gonna wrap things up now. But mate, thank you so much for jumping on. Matty and I couldn't be more stoked to have you on as a guest.
Anytime.
So let's do it again sometime, and then we'll see how you're progressing towards the end of the year and see what your plans are.
Thanks, boys.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.